Hello, Music Multiverse listeners, and welcome to Beyond Your Radio's Unknown Sundays. It's time to talk about something in the music multiverse that might be relatively unknown to some, most, or maybe all. Music is kind of lost sometimes in the great scheme of time and area and country. This is one of those examples. This might be a relatively unknown miss that our watchers, our listeners, and appreciators out there, collectors, might be interested in. A rabbit hole to go down of international nature this week. If this is your first time here, this is an extension of our website and the articles there. I write these in great detail there, as well as links and sometimes music videos or live performances. So you can check it out there. Today's band has an international connection, but not much accompaniment to the United States that I'm aware of. This episode of Unknown Sunday has no backstory. I do not have the band in any of my collection, and I musically had no prior knowledge of this band at any point. What I do believe is that I should have. The algorithm has failed. And it will from time to time, and that's something you need to understand. If the reason we need people and YouTube channels like this, like Beyond Your Radio and Beato and Anthony and the Professor of Rock and others out there that talk about music, talk about bands, talk about albums, showcase talent, is for reasons like this. And some of these might be across the world, or some of them across the street. Now, today's band is not from across the street. I do hear drumming across the street, but I'm thinking perhaps we might be waiting a while on that budding talent there. So perhaps the next Lars Ulrich from Buffalo, New York. Who knows, right? So this Nepalese rap metal quartet is certainly attempting to take Kathmandu into the 2000s of new rap metal and heavy funk scene. Whether they did that or not, we'll find out. Did they accomplish this in the South Asian country that borders tightly with the chantings of Tibet and the hustle and bustle and busting demographics of India? Let's find out together if this familiar style that comes to us gathered enough moss in Nepal. This is Tumbleweed Incorporated on Unknown Sundays 2025. Aggression fueled the underground Nepal rock scene, but the influences of Rage Against the Machine were worldly rampant. And there is no question that Tumbleweed Incorporated and the gentleman behind this had taken their world and merged it within and without Tom Morello, mixed in with some other Western sounds that come from bass lines of maybe the Red Hot Chili Peppers, as well as grungy parts that have the harder side of maybe a Nirvana or Deftones, and recently even putting themselves in harm's way with an artist named Amazumi, but we'll get to her. In 2025, really not known. Really not knowing if they even have an album. There seems to be a lack of clarity there. This is going to be a fearless rabbit hole that we're going down here. But there's a story in all of this. An international melding of a metal guitar, raw power, and energy of vocal and lyrical connection with a rhythmic line that's going to cross such things that we're familiar with and cross borders too. I've never heard a single song or known any of these artists, but here we go, right? So to start somewhere, we start at the debut album. The debut album by Tumbleweed Incorporated is Parachaya. It was released in 2014. This debut album, 14 years after let's call it the death of Rage Against the Machine after Renegades, seems to have fueled this. Kind of has that hip-hop aggression built on the bones of Morello or the influences of Zach De La Roche right off the get-go. Hang on to your Napoleon Dhaka topi. That's a hat, in case you're wondering, because it's probably not going to stay on your head, bobbing, moshing, and throwing yourself to the all-out Western meets South Asian metal and varietal grooves coming from, I don't know, a Red Hot Chili Pepper bass, as well as darker sounds of Soundgarden. And an avant-garde, maybe, that might remind you a bit of Faith No More. Those are good companies to keep. Here's the interesting part. Beyond that, which you will have your familiar metal, rap, and heavy rock guitars of, they actually find a way to incorporate melody, harmonies, and even acoustical representations as the album comes to closings and conclusions, giving us deeper vocals instead of rap, and sounds that are even expressing their own cultural influences outside of Western world's overpowering persona. They do seem to have those vicious songs that are necessary, and vicious and raw parts, and that's Faces Apart. There's a song called President and Social Parasite, but it's the funk that shit and Yusko Katha and Kathmandu that leave a cooler impression and unique creative connection. Still, this is 15 tracks covering an expansive heavy rap, metal, and alternative nature, hinting at new metal, of course, carefully playing both sides of native tongue and English. In fact, there's pronunciation liberties taken, where you would think that Social Parasite would be how that sounds. Not for them. But I'll let you hear that yourself. I was really hoping for more instrumental height sometimes because of the lyrical disconnection I had. But that's going to be happening when you're listening to a foreign language album. Don't get me wrong, the native harmonies and vocal melodies, I get it. I understand their connectivities, and they need to live within their environment too, and then branch out. So this is great that it has kind of both. When you get with this album falls into a subculture of the scene with a pretty darn good production that definitely is above the debut boards that you would normally get. Think of bands like Quicksand in here, right? There's bits of that. Orange Theory, Push Monkey. I know this is probably not a band you're aware of. And 1 Minute Silence, which was another Rage Against the Machine kind of influential band. It's just great straight-up Rage comparisons in those, plus the distortion guitar maybe and the alternative guitar work. The last track, Bedlido Samaj. It's a Southern rock play, and it seems to have the social, societal message without battlement, not as rough and harsh. This includes this intricate guitar work and showcasing this guitar work, and this kind of gives you this this band and their leader. Right? This is Sarad Shrestha, if that's pronounced right. He's kind of the guitar maestro in here, and the rest of the band kind of falls in line and wraps themselves around this and gets into it with him. But his guitar work kind of leads other places that you might not experience. Yes, there's the Tom Morello thing, but there's also a lot of other people that you might recognize in how he plays guitar in different songs. Nepali's kind of got this rap metal funkified foursome that does a really nice job, and the fade out here was the right call at the track's end. I like it. I love the way it's positioned, and this debut was something that I truly enjoyed. So now we get into 2017, which is three years later, and it's Añol. 3 years later, there seems to be a slight paradigm shift here to increase the intensity. and the connection. There's definitely a closer Rage Against the Machine vibe in this guitar work and bass workings, as well as the pace. It's amplified, right? Vocally, we're getting a bit more irritable vocal awareness. We got in-your-face lyrical content, although there's areas where I lose the lyrics again, but that's understandable in language shifts. They have not forgone any production, just upping the amplitude and the riffiness, which is usually format for sophomore albums of this nature, especially ones that do pretty good. Those that do fantastically well, sometimes they just keep the same. There are production tricks to the vocal. That's kind of gives you that rasp and near horsey scream rap in contrast, as well as they have this attempt to give the record an increasing doom rock atmosphere with the guitar, which he's pulling off really well. The bass and rhythm section is fantastic in this. It's the song Greha that steps the furthest outside the temporal atmosphere created here. Laying down a fat groove and vibrating guitar against an easier rap exchange that we haven't kind of experienced in this recording. It's an unsettling feeling, going to lead somewhere the band has never been. But does it? Well, in fact, it layers and takes a reminder position to the first record and their uniqueness while still maintaining the flow of a reporting style rap vocal. And it's excellently played progressive licks that can remind you of all kinds of guitars, from Alex Lifeson to Josh Homme. Then there's Terra Incognita on this record, and that lets you again know that the metal and hard rock pressure and feedback will always be the core of them tumbling forward. No roots. This band, they claim and consider themselves to be that way. They gather everything up from the sonic whammy bar to the microgasmish vocals and the suicidal tendency bloodlines bass kind of construction, which is fantastic, right? That's what drives these kind of albums in the background, sort of underappreciated. And like the debut album, they are not afraid of getting lost in a different sound of guitar, different pace, different messaging, with bending into like a rap metal will, kind of like they can do that, as is the case with Ma Passe and Sleepless Nights, which feels like it's going to hit a ballad stride in the mix, reaching for an expression that finally gave me another name drop of an influential thing I was hearing, and it just wouldn't come to me. There's quite a bit of Living Colour style here. Remember the Living Colour first record? You had your metal, but you had your rap and you had your funky, and this band has that. I'm not saying it's a copycat or anything in that. It's just much harder and much more riff and alternative in its position. But I just wanted to put that out there because the flow and the invigorated feel is there. Hell, they even rip up a country metal twanger called Naya Shristi that has an obtuse position that we may not have ever gotten to had this band never done this. The track translates apparently to either New World or New Creation, which certainly fits it very well, but might be a bit off the mark to finish the album with. And yes, there are some underlying chord structures that remind us of popular songs that I couldn't come up with as many times as I've listened to it. So if you do know what I'm hearing there, you can hit me up on it. I'd love to know what that is. And now we get to the part where the rabbit holes and black holes of where we are and where are they now. Tumbleweed Inc. had a release called Cream of the Crop, a single, which came out, I believe, February of this year. And it features the Nepal-born Amazumi, who's an interesting female rap, soul, and hardcore enigma in the music multiverse, kind of a multi-talented or self-proclaimed multi-talented individual, kind of does art and this too. Very gripping, but harsher. But but she also has stuff that's softer too. So there's a rabbit hole for you, Amazumi, and an interesting one to go down. And then there's a prior single from the band in 2023, but I see no past albums, nor do I see anything in the future. So I typed Tumbleweed Incorporated for website. Yeah, yeah, it's for ranchers, so be careful there. So let's follow the leader. Let's follow Sarad into his other project, Shree 3. Here, anything goes in the rock arena and subgenre that this Nepal trio wishes to unleash. Starting out with loop recordings and then heavy blues rock with straight up raw deep rock vocals, which are real. That's nowhere near where the rap was, which exchanges with the guitars and rhythm and rises to all kinds of occasions to meet that Western heavy world rock. The song opener is River, and that's from 2019, their album Drebya Dharma, which you would have no clue that this was a Nepalian record. You might think it has a stoner America kind of psychedelic rock tingling too. That makes it completely accessible. This is the their second album came out in 2022. Rust in Dust, and that too. So the hard rock, predictable rank riff and roll cravings that you like. And again, you wouldn't know that they're from Nepal. Then in rides Two Gunslingers. That is the name of the band. Yeah, no shit. This is sacred. This is Sarad again, but this is him with Mishra, who also has an ASM project band. It's basically the initials of him that he was doing while Sarad was in Shree 3 and Tumbleweed Incorporated. These two guys wanted to bring this rock and roll and create this scene and move it above the underground of Nepal. And I have not seen Two Gunslingers emerge as an album. There's supposedly an EP, but I can't find it. There was an article I found regarding these two playing together and getting together, and I was assuming some sort of guitar duoing, right? Because they're both a guitarist. And when I saw the acoustic session, that's the only thing I could get a link to, that's pretty much what it was. So there's a rabbit hole for you to explore. So that they could, there's for these two guys, there's no pressure. There seems to be no management and no sponsorship ties that force them to have to do anything. They do what they want to do, love what they love. And that is how Tumbleweed Incorporated has managed to be. Tour and spread their music across the region, whether it's in Tibet, Nepal, or India, and feed their creativities that way. Whether it's Nepal, whether it's Bergen, Poland, Mali, there are talented artists everywhere, singers, songwriters, and musicians that deserve this kind of exposure. Some of them might be the next generation, the next big thing that in your new memory of music. These are heavy pilgrimages. I get it, especially when it comes to language barrier. It's the same for them as well. The bands, the artists, right? They have to go through things. I heard somebody just the other day talking about a band out of Israel that's got this great sound, but they don't get much play because they're from Israel. And they do sound like other bands that are in the U.S. or England. You would think more exposure because of the digital environment now, and it makes it a little bit easier, and the vastness of Bandcamp. All great things. But what I'm saying here is leave nothing to the algorithm, my friends. Otherwise, you're an audio slave, and not the good audio slave. Be a tumbleweed, or in this case, a Tumbleweed Incorporated, that rolls through, sucking up everything, leaving your roots behind. But the memory of them is still there. You carry them with you. They're still there, what you love, what you continue to respect. But roll with it and pick up some other great sounding bands and musicians, artists. You never know what's out there in the truly unknown. Again, those Tumbleweed Incorporated albums, Parachea in 2014, and Annual in 2017. What did you think of Tumbleweed Incorporated? Did you accidentally listen to Tumbleweed because you didn't think about the Incorporated? Did you think it was crazy once you listened to that? Because it's not the same. Did you visit tumbleweedincorporated.com and suddenly become sucked into becoming a rancher? Yeah, I thought about it. Man, but it's not ranching in Nepal, so it doesn't seem as exciting. Give me your comments, of course. Just have a fun listen. Enjoy. I'll see you next week for the Four Horsemen on Unknown Sundays. We're on the web at beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, of course. We got articles, videos, podcasts coming soon. Artists, albums, bands, artists, anything we can get our hands on. Go Beyond Your Radio with us, a real music appreciation channel. Click that like, subscribe button if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and happy listening.